Hello and welcome back to Record of the Ear, the podcast where I shout all my opinions into the void about whatever album I'm listening to that week because frankly, none of my friends want to listen to it. I'm your host Ryan Lark, and this week's Record of the Ear is Come Away With Me by Norah Jones. I chose this album because honestly, I've been having a really stressful past week or so, and this is such a good album just to relax, put it on. It's very easy and calming listening. I just really like it, and I'm sure you all will too. Everyone knows Norah Jones' top hits, Sunrise, and Don't Know Why, I'm sure. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a good album. So let's just get into a little bit. A little stats about the album. It's a blues folk pop fusion album that was debuted in 2002. It was her debut album as well. I think she was 22, I believe, if I'm not right. Maybe she was younger than that. But it's got 14 tracks. It's 45 minutes long. Uh, Regarding the length of each song, I really like it because there's only one song or one or two songs that are like over 4 minutes, and everything's about 2.5, 3.5 minutes long, which I love. Like a short, concise song that doesn't drone on forever. If everything's a ballad, it's kind of like weird. Um, and Norah Jones already has that kind of ballad feel, so if every song was longer, it'd be like, oh my god, jeez, this is droning on. But I guess that's why it's one of the top albums uh, in the past 2 decades. According to Rolling Stone, it made their top 100 best albums of the decade. That was in the 2000s decade, not this past decade, obviously, because it came out in 2002. It has sold over 27 million copies as of 2016, so it's probably sold more than that by now, making it one of the best selling albums of all time. I don't know the exact number, but that's pretty incredible. As far as the Grammys go and actual awards, it won Album of the Year, Best Pop Vocal Album, and Best Engineered Album. And the song Don't Know Why, I think it was either nominated or won both Song of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Performance. There are four singles on the album. Don't Know Why, obviously. Feeling the Same Way, Come Away With Me, and Turn Me On. I think four is perfect. Glad it's only four. Um, More than that obviously gets a little too dicey for me. But yeah, before we get into the actual album and the tracks, I want to go ahead and remind you guys to take a listen to the album. Go track by track with me if you want. I'll be going track by track and describing it. But yeah, just make sure you take a listen to it before we head and get into the album, or else you're not going to know what I'm talking about. The first track is called Don't Know Why, her hit single, and it was written by Jesse Harris. And it's a song all about a partner, a lover, whatever you want to call it, moving away, and then you not going with them and regretting not going with them. It's a really haunting and heartbreaking song. It's so pure and gut wrenching. She's got such a great emotional pull with this, and it's got that uh, just like feel to it that's very somber yet relatable, where it's like, oh, you missed out on that chance and now you're never going to have it again and it's too late. I think that's very relatable. Not necessarily everyone's had someone move away, but everyone's had those chances that they missed out on and regret it. So in that way, it really relates to the audience. Um, and I think it's just such a beautifully written and such a beautifully sung song, and a great way to start out the album. I really like it a lot. And obviously, it's one of her top hits, if not her top hit. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna have to give it for songwriting. I mean, it's just so poetic, but tells such a clear story, which is actually a really good theme that goes throughout the whole album. Like everything is such poetry and yet tells a story that is very easy to understand without being like, and then I went to the store and then he broke up with me, blah 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 blah. It's like just tells it in such a unique and interesting way that you get it, but tell and like are interested in it, even if it's something that everyone understands and it's like not a new topic. It's like, oh, you told it in such a different way that I am really interested and I really like the way you said that. So for songwriting, I'm definitely going to have to give it a 10. And for recording, I mean 10. The second song on the album is called 7 Years and it was written by Lee Alexander. And there's a couple ways to interpret this song. The way that when I listened to it, when I first listened to it, I was like, oh, this is, and what I'm picturing is probably a young Nora or a young version of Nora who is always told like what's wrong with you after like they make a mistake either by their parents, guardian, whatever you want to say, and despite being told that she's still like happy and enjoying her life and singing and dancing outside alone because maybe her parents like said just go play outside. Like I kind of like make up that story in my head where it's like, oh, the parents said just go outside. Like I can't be around you right now, and she's like okay, and just is like happy enjoying life because she doesn't really understand what she did wrong because she's 7 years old. I've also heard people say that this song is about a disabled child being happy and not. It's kind of like a for them. It's like a song not about their struggle, but kind of um, embracing the joy and pureness of the child, despite or because of the disability. That one, it kind of fringely mentions like with nothing wrong. It's like constantly uh, referenced in the song, that phrase. So I understand where people come with the disabled child aspect, like perspective, but I just think it's to me makes more sense in my version. But again, maybe that's just me interpreting that way. I guess it's all about how you interpret it. But I really like the stripped down feel of this song. Like you get that acoustic guitar that's just so expertly played, and you kind of get that harsh. You know when you drag your fingers across a guitar, you get that harsh scratching sound. Like usually that like kind of irritates me when I hear that in a song because like okay, this is like a professionally mastered song. This shouldn't have this in it, but it kind of gives it like a more raw effect, and I think this is such a deep song. It really adds a lot to it and gives it that nice stripped down effect that I like. So for songwriting, I really like the melody a lot, and I think the lyrics are very powerful here. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And for recording, I'm going to give it an 8.5. The third track on the album is called Cold Cold Heart and it was originally written by Hank Williams. It's actually a cover of Frank Sinatra's song. There's a lot of covers on this album, actually. Um, but it's about loving someone, but they're holding back because the relationship, uh, because of a previous relationship, and they're kind of causing the current one to fall apart and crumble because they can't get over or move past that previous trauma. Um, I really like how she sings this song. It's such a beautifully written song. B the way she sings it makes it so new and fresh, and she's got such cool stylings on it. It's like the slides that she goes into on the notes is just so fun and just shows off her expert musical talent in a way that isn't like, oh, that's too much. Like, tone it down a little. Like, we don't need all these like stylistic notes on these like, I guess notes. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just really good, and she does such a good job with it. I really, really like it. Um, I think that should have been one of the singles. I don't know why they didn't do that. Maybe because it's a cover, but yeah, I just really like it. So for songwriting, I'm gonna have to give it probably an 8, and for recording, I'm gonna give it a 9. The fourth track on the album is called "Feeling the Same Way," and it was written by Lee Alexander again. And it's a song about feeling stuck in a lifestyle where you're constantly kind of doing the same thing over and over every day. That cyclical lifestyle, and you don't really enjoy what you're doing anymore, but you just feel kind of stuck. Like you can't figure out a way out, which I'm sure is very relatable to a lot of people during the pandemic, or even before the pandemic. I think it's a really relatable feeling to a lot of people, which is why I think it's such an effective song, and it fits perfectly on this album. Honestly, um, I think the melody is very simple, but I think the way she sings it is very beautiful. I don't think she sings it in like a. It's not like a like a striking, like, oh wow, this is incredible, but she does a very good job with it. And the instrumentation here, actually, I always like am almost drawn to that more than her voice, which maybe is negative to her or positive to the band, depending on how you look at it. Yeah, I just really like the instrumentation on this song a lot. So, for songwriting, I'm gonna give it probably a 7, and for recording, I'm gonna give it a 7 as well. The fifth track on the album is the title track "Come Away With Me," written by Ms. Norah Jones. And this is a song all about two people who are in love but can't be together because of how other people react or talk about them, and kind of them getting in the way of the relationship and them being happy together. This is another sad song that has kind of a hopeful like note to it, that's or like kind of delusional like fantasy element to it, where it's the come away, let's just go away and like not worry about these other people, which like isn't realistic because people, you can't avoid people forever unless you become a hermit and just avoid everyone in life. But most people cannot do that, so it's definitely, I think, again, Nora writes another relatable song and adds it to this album where everyone has that feeling of someone you were together with, whether it's friends or relationship. People gossip and say stuff to you, even directly, about that person that makes it like kind of rocky or not as good as if they didn't say anything at all. So I think it's a very effective song and relatability, and I like the way it was written because it's written in a conversational tone about like, oh, let's just get away, and it's not really talking about the reasons that they want to get away, but it's known the reasons that they want to get away, and the circumstances around it, which is really interesting to me and a different take that I don't usually hear in songs about this topic. So for songwriting, I'm gonna give it. Obviously, the melody is also exceptional. So for songwriting, I'm going to give it an 8, and for recording, I'm gonna give it a 9. The sixth track on the album is called "Shoot the Moon," and it was written by Jesse Harris. And this is a song all about a lover who has moved on and has someone new. Potentially even the lover that she was talking about and don't know why. And I just, I mean, for songwriting, the melody is simple, but it is so beautiful and so effective in this song. It just really brings the song to life, like the lyrics to life. It's just done so well, and Nora sings it in such an exceptional way. And the harmonies in this song, like, just like, it's not used a lot, but it is used sparingly and effectively and expertly to really bring out the emotion and emphasize certain parts, which I obviously love. If you ever listen to the episode about the other sides with Cam, like I talk about this, like knowing when and how and where to put certain stylistic touches like the harmonies and stuff is so effective at bringing out lyrics. So yeah, I really like this song a lot, and I'm so happy she recorded it and added it to the album. So for songwriting, I'm gonna give it an 8, and for recording, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. The seventh track on the album is called "Turn Me On," and it was written originally by John D. Loudermilk, and this is a cover again of Mark Dinning's original track on his I don't. It was one of his albums. I don't. It's a famous album. It's a song about want or waiting for your lover, either literal or metaphorically, to come home. Yeah, it's a good. The lyrics are nothing crazy. I think it's just like a lot of imagery about like, oh, I'm waiting around the house, which is not that interesting to me, but I think it's just the melody and stylings that she adds to it that give it a real fun effect. She shows off her vocals phenomenally here. I think she does such a good job here. You really get a feel of like how talented of a vocalist she is, because obviously she has a lot of control and she's kind of like a quiet singer and more level singer, whereas this song she really lets loose on some parts, although not the whole thing, definitely only sparingly in this song. Um, she lets loose and like really shows off her vocals and kind of belts a little, which is refreshing and adds a new texture to the album because after a while you wouldn't want to hear the same thing over and over again, or at least the same kind of style over and over again in the album. So yeah, I really like this song. I think she does a really good job with it. So for writing, I'm gonna give it probably a 7, and recording, I'm gonna give it an 8. I'll give it an 8.5 actually. The eighth track on the album is called Lone Star, and it was also written by Lee Alexander. Um, this is a song all about someone who feels hopeless and is just looking for a reason to hope again. Um, it's it's honestly probably one of my least favorite songs on the album. I think it's a little hokey pokey, boring, kind of a medium tempo song where she does give some life to it a little. Where it's I don't like the songwriting very much on this. I think it's very average at best. Kind of a, like I said, pokey melody with the lyrics being kind of like meh. Um, and but Nora's vocals here, she does some really interesting things. She has some really cool turnabouts, or turnarounds. I don't know what you call them. Uh, but I think she adds a lot of fun texture to this song. But it's hard for an artist to take a mediocre song and record it to make it like elevated to a grand stature. So I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt here, but because she does do some really fun things with it, but it's just not a, in my opinion, well written song. So it's difficult for her to really elevate it. So for songwriting, I'm gonna give it a 4. Honestly, I'm really disappointed in this song. I don't think it should even be on here. Um, or at least just written in a different way, or maybe slow it down to make it a ballad, change the melody. I just, especially having it at that medium tempo, I don't understand why they did that. It just sounds so awkward and clunky. Um, I don't know. So, like I said, 4 for songwriting, and for recording, I'll give it a, I'll give it a 5.5. No, I'll give it a 6 because she does do some good things with it. The ninth track on the album is called "I've Got to See You Again," and it was also written by Jesse Harris. Um, it's about still being in love with someone after you know they've cheated on you, um, and still wanting to kind of be with them. Uh, it's got this like cruel melody. Honestly, I think Jesse Harris is just really good at writing melodies, but it's just got this weird, like kind of eerie feel to it. That's not like spook. It's not like ooky spooky. It's like just kind of like this eerie, like I got to see you again. It's just so fun, and I just love that line. Um, or not that line, but like that, like phrasing. It's just so fun, and I think the lyrics aren't stellar here, but I think the melody is, honestly, and the way that she does it is very like almost sexy, eerie, sultry, with knowing it's not good and it's not a good situation. And you can really feel that coming through in the way she sings it. So for songwriting, I'm going to have to give it a 6.5. And for recording, I'm going to give it a 7. The 10th track on the album is called Painter Song, and it was written by Lee Alexander and J.C. Hopkins. And it's about wanting to capture the memory of someone who died so you won't forget it. Kind of like wishing you were a painter so you could paint the memories of the person who passed away so they won't be lost in or just only stored in your memory. In case that goes. I think the melody is fine here. I don't think it's anything special. Again, I don't know if Lee Alexander's just a hit or miss for me, but I was not blown away by the melody. Uh, and I don't know why, ironically, that's so funny. Don't know why when she hits that high note towards the end of the song where she sings the phrase, "My brush would take me there." It's very it's very off-putting to me, and I don't like it. I think it's supposed to be cutting, and I think it's supposed to be like a little off-putting, but and maybe it's supposed to give like that weird heartbroken effect because it's so cutting. I just I personally would rather just have it like maybe it's I think it might be in minor, which is why it sounds so odd in it. I just wish it was like not that. I don't mind her hitting the high note and belting it, but I just don't think the note there was correct for me. So I I really like the lyrics, honestly. I really like the lyrics. I think the melody is okay. I think that she makes some definitely decisions with this song, which I'm sure some people really like that and think it gives it a nice, really cool effect and emotion to it, but it's just not for me. So for songwriting, I'm going to give it a 7. And for recording, I'm going to give it a 5.5. The 11th track on the album is called One Flight Down, and it was also written by Jesse Harris. It's about a song about finally realizing kind of what you had all along, whether that's in a relationship or family or whatever. And it's just it's such a poetic song, and kind of hard to tease out what the meaning was. So maybe some would say it's like a little too poetic because it's kind of like fuzzy on the meaning, but also the melody here is just so beautiful and graceful, and she just sings it with such elegance. It's such a testament to her ability, especially at such a young age. Um, I think she just does such an incredible job with this song, and she gives it such emotion and flavor that uh, is really, really quite impressive, honestly. Um, she really starts to belt because she kind of has this like soft tone throughout it, and then she really just like kind of brings out and has a lot of dynamics with the song, which is gives it a nice elevation, which I think a lot of songs are, especially nowadays, are afraid of dynamics, which is kind of weird. And I guess kind of weird with the whole mastering and headphone like medium of listening through music, um, listening to music. So I don't know. I think it was refreshing to hear it. Um, but anyways, as far as songwriting goes, I love the melody. I love the lyrics. So honestly, I'm going to give it an 8.5. And for recording, I'm going to give her an 8.5 as well. The 12th track on the album is called Nightingale, and it was also written by Norah Jones. Um, this is a song all about asking advice to someone, quote, the Nightingale, if she should stay with someone and feeling kind of the weight of having to make that decision, kind of the dread of having to make that decision. It is, I mean, this is such a beautiful and somber song. The lyrics are fantastic. She really paints a tale of uh, dread that is so relatable, like of having to make a decision that you don't want to make, that you kind of know the answer, but you don't want it to happen yet, and you don't want to have to deal with the outcome of that so soon. Um, she she has such a elegance to this that is so somber and brings the melody such flavor that I don't know. I just the way she just has those falls and not like falls to a different note, not just a fall, but she does that a couple times throughout the song, and it gives it such a like a somber effect, um, and kind of a wailing effect that is so beautiful. Honestly, I really like this song, and I think she does such a good job with it. So kudos to you. I'm gonna go ahead and give it for songwriting a 9 and for recording an 8.5. The next track on the album is called The Long Day Is Over, and it was also written by Norah Jones as well as Jesse Harris. Talk about a duo. This is a song all about finally getting through whatever hard time or hard problem that was going on in your life. And this, I mean, those two together, the lyrics and melody on this song are exceptional. And the flavor she gives it is in the stylistic choices that she made while singing this song. give it such a haunting and exhausted feeling that really connect with the lyrics exceptionally, because it's not a song about, oh, everything's great now. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I finally got through it, but damn, am I tired. Like, that was exhausting, and I'm just glad to be through it. Um, and like glad I got through it. I think it's just so well written, so beautifully written. I don't know. I just really like this song. They did such a good job with it, and Nora did such a good job singing it. Um, yeah, and it's like such a short little poem, basically. Yeah, I really like it. I think they did a good job. So for songwriting, I'm gonna go ahead and give it an 8, and for recording, I'm gonna also give it an 8. The last track on the album, track 14, is called The Nearness of You, and it was originally written by Hoagie Carmichael and Ned Washington. This is, again, another cover, and it was really originally Glenn Miller's song. It's a song all about the thrill and delight of kind of being close to someone you love, physically, like literally being close to them and being near them. I think it's got a beautiful melody. I think the lyrics are kind of meh, they've been told before. It is a cover, but I I think the lyrics are, yeah, it's just very repetitive in some areas, and I don't love the lyrics because that is such a topic that has been done kind of overdone at this point, and it isn't really told in a new, interesting way, which I think is to the detriment of the album, unfortunately. Um, but I think the way she sings it is very beautiful, obviously. I honestly don't love this track either on the album. I think it could have probably been removed, although I'm sure she's just paying homage to one of her favorite songs. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's good. She sings it well. She does a good job with it. I don't think she does anything crazy with it. I don't know if it's definitely not better than the original. Unfortunately, though that's hard with Glenn Miller. But yeah, I don't know. As far as songwriting goes, I think the melody is better than the lyrics, obviously. Not that that's hard to do. Um, so I'm going to give it a 6.5, and then for recording, I'm going to give it a 6. Sorry, Nora. As far as the overall album goes, I'm going to start with the story, which is what I like to talk about. Um, but there's definitely pieces of a story here. You could definitely form a story out of all of the tracks, um, but there are definite ones that don't really stick to the story. Those being like 7 years. Um, Honestly, the last track, "The Nearness of You," I don't know exactly fits in that order at least. Um, I just I like all of these songs except for a few of them, which I mentioned previously. I just I wish she would have rearranged them, honestly. Maybe she could have, if she really wanted to include 7 years, which I think she should because it's a great song. Um, Maybe put that first to show growth into adulthood, or maybe put it later to show reflection on your childhood. I just don't think right there was a, a strategic spot. Um, Maybe you could have told a story about the person moving away and then having to deal with that grief, and um, maybe them like going taking another lover and then that one dying and going to Painter's Song. I just don't know if the arrangement of the order told a clear story. There's obviously a theme here of love and loss, that's told in a very unique way and told in very uh, interesting stories, but um, I don't know if the order is exactly the best for this. I would probably rearrange it to make a story like I just mentioned. But aside from the story, taking that out of the picture, this is such an incredible album, in my opinion. Her voice is so special. Um, the whole feel of the album is so intimate with that kind of quiet, low sound of her voice. it really, when you're listening to the album, you kind of are transported, which is why I love the name of Come Away With Me as the title of the album, because you really are like transported into what I feel is like a piano bar, and you're just listening to her play and sing, and it's just so beautiful. Um, she's just taking you away from your life, and uh, taking on like this calm, fun journey where you can just relax. Um, it's very easy listening to. It's kind of like a record, one of those records that you could put on at a party, or when you have a bunch of people over, and everyone would enjoy it. Like no one's gonna ask you to change it. It's just like everyone will enjoy this album, I guarantee. Maybe they won't like every track, but like they'll like the overall album. Like I said before, the lyrics are always very poetic, yet still telling a clear story, except for like that one song. But um, I think she does such an incredible job. The melodies are simple yet done very well and very effectively, and her stylistic choices on this album, like she just does a wonderful job. She's very simplistic, yet is able to do what a lot of people can do, that are vocalists, like extreme vocalists. Like she's got the talent for sure. She just doesn't always belt it, which makes you pay attention and makes it more effective when she does. I just really love this album, and I think it's done so beautifully. So, um, taking into consideration the story aspect as well, which I always do, because otherwise, what does the track listing matter? Um, I'm gonna go ahead and give this album. Uh, I wish I could give it higher, but I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I can justify a 7.5 in my mind. I can't really give it any higher, unfortunately, because there is a story, but it's just not. It's just like a jumbled story. So, adding up all the scores, the average of the songwriting came out to 7.61. The average of the recording ratings came out to 7.9. And totaling all those three up, I get a score of 22.9, or 23 if you want to round, which is a very high score, honestly, for the average album. There's only been a handful that have made it above 23, so, or above 22, so very impressive. Unfortunately, does not beat out I Never Loved a Man by Aretha Franklin with the leading score of 23.7, but it made a valiant effort. Overall, I did love this album. If you want to give me your opinions on what you thought of the album, or if you thought I got some of the meanings wrong, or whatever your opinions of the album are, go ahead and reach out on Instagram. I have a page for the podcast called Record of the Year Podcast. That is Year without the Y. Record of the Year. I always post the album cover of whatever album I'm reviewing that week as a post, and you can feel free to comment on that post and let me know your thoughts. I'm always wanting to hear them, because I will go back and forth with you if you comment, because again, I have no one else to talk to about this. Also, if you don't want to post on it, feel free to message me personally on that Instagram app. Not app, what am I talking about? On that Instagram account. Just message DM me there, and we can talk about it, chat about it. If you want any albums in particular that you want me to review, feel free to let me know. I'm always up to listening to new albums that I don't know. Also, feel free to leave a 5-star review. Nothing is holding you back. I encourage you to leave me a review there. And that's a good way if you want me to see something else there that you want to let me know that you want to the podcast. Maybe you want me to do a different explained episode. I was thinking about doing another one in the next month or so, but yeah, go ahead and leave me a 5-star review. I'd really appreciate it, honestly. But other than that, you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next time. Bye.